Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So Wilds of Eldraine spoiler season is over. We've got access to all the cards now. Well, all the card images, I should say. Not access to them yet because the release date for Wilds of Eldraine, I believe, is September 8th. So very exciting. But yeah, on this episode, I'm going to be talking about the most powerful commanders from this set. In my opinion, what are the tier rankings of the commanders from this set? All the way from the bottom tier, the D tier, the terrible commanders. Some you might be scratching your head and be like, why'd they make that? This does nothing. All the way up to the S tier, some crazy, powerful, world-shattering commanders that you and me should be on the lookout for at our tables, because if that's across from me, we need to take them out quickly. Ignore my commander. Take that commander out. Anyways, on this episode, I'll be taking you through these picks, and of course, I will mention that, well, all these are based off of my own personal, preferences, my own personal decision-making process on how powerful I think these are based on the lens that I have for, my own playgroup, essentially. Just, hey, what's powerful? What would be powerful in my playgroup? So we are a casual playgroup. I will say this is not CEDH rankings. This is not the most powerful version of them. This is, hey, yeah, casual, but also like, hey, yeah, we're playing to win still. So there you go. With all that said, let's jump into it. And the order of these commanders is going to be, well, pretty random. It's kind of basically whatever tier maker, put the order of. I'm basically going in that order. So here we go. Agatha the Vile Cauldron is going to be the first commander I'm going to be talking about. A 1/1 human warlock. 4 red and a green. Activate abilities of creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha the Vile Cauldron's power. This effect can't reduce the mana, and that costs to less than 1 mana. By paying 4 red and a green, other creature you control at ++1 and gain trimble and haste until end of turn. So this is a commander that, yeah, very simple pump effects like a Black Blade or Forge simply will just get you to the point where all the generic mana, unless it's just a fully generic mana ability, will cost, well, again, either 0 or 1. So essentially, all your activated abilities of creatures are going to be essentially nearly nothing. So again, like an Ant Queen. Just even an Ant Queen plus this equals all of a sudden you can make tokens for just a single mana. There's a lot more powerful effects that you can make. There's some crazy things that you can do with this one. And yeah, even its own ability is just a nice pump effect that gives trample and haste, helping you swing out, dump some mana into that, take opponents out. So yeah, like Gruul activated abilities, it's kind of it's like the hardest to place the very first one just because there's no context around it as to what the other ones are going to be. I've looked through the commanders, but still, I think Agatha, at the end of the day, I'm going to start you off. You're kind of like a B+, A-. I think there's going to be commanders in the A tier that are more powerful than you. I'll start you off in the B. We might move you from there. So yeah, Agatha the Vile Cauldron, you definitely have some potential. Again, some crazy things that you can do once you're set up. Once you've got a little bit of power, you can reduce that cost of your creatures to absolutely nothing on their activated abilities. Some crazy things can be done there. So let's start off with that. Moving on, let's go on to Greta Sweet Tooth Scourge. Now, no spoilers, but and actually, I haven't actually gone through and done these tier rankings. I haven't made like a separate tier list over here that I'm actually looking off of. So this is just kind of on the fly. But yeah, the uncommons are pretty garbage in this set. Anyways, a 3/3 human warrior for 1 black and a green enters the battlefield, create a food token, pay green, sacrifice a food, counter on a creature, activate only as a sorcerer because that restriction really needed to happen apparently. Pay 1 and a black, sacrifice food, draw a card, lose 1 life. Not good. Definitely not good. Gosh, the problem is that, like, not to again spoil things too much, just what I'm thinking is going to be happening is that all the uncommons are probably going to be like D, maybe C, and it's going to push other ones out of there, so maybe I have to move Agatha up. I think Greta, you're definitely a terrible uncommon commander. You're not the worst one, so you're probably going to go down. I could just put all the uncommons down there probably, but I'm going to put you in, oh gosh, yeah, I guess C tier. You've got the potential to get some card advantage at least, right? So there you go. Let's throw you in the C tier again. Sorry, Greta. Moving on. Gilwain Casting Director. A 2/3 human bard for 1 green white. Whenever in or other non-token creature enters battlefield you control, choose 1. Create a royal roll, create a sorcerer roll, create a monster roll. So again, these auras that come into play, the token auras that you can attach. And yeah, this is a commander that can just really, really benefit you from especially Constellation or just kind of like Enchantress effects, just broad, having a lot of enchantments in play, having a lot of auras in play can really benefit you with a certain effect. And yeah, just being able to say, oh, you're also in a color that can just like blink its entire team quite easily with like an Eerie Interlude. Essentially get creatures in play that maybe have some good ETBs like a Sun Titan, those kind of cards, and then just use and abuse their ETBs with blink effects, get a ton of auras attached to them, gain a ton of card advantage from like Eidolon Blossoms, etc., etc. Yeah, take advantage of Constellation. It's got a good amount of potential. There's definitely commanders out there that have more potential than this one, but still a very cool concept. Again, you're probably right around where Agatha is. I'm probably underrating these to start, but I'm going to throw you up in the B tier. Goodness gracious. I mean, maybe I'm just kind of underrating what that B tier could be, especially those uncommon. Oh, goodness. You know what? We're going to throw Agatha up in the A tier, then we might have to move Gawain as well. So we'll see how it goes, okay? We're here right now. We're adjusting on the fly. It's going to happen. Comment below if I've already made so many mistakes. Anyways, moving on. Kelly Fey-Blooded. A 2/2 human fairy for 2 and a red, so 3 mana in total. Double strike, other creature control +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen. And then also basically the open the armory spell essentially. Birthright Boon for 1 and a white sorcery adventure. Search live for an aura equipment. You open your hand, then shuffle. This is a lot of potential because you can go in a different direction with it. You can go in a couple different directions. You can just go for low to the ground like equipment that's easy to get out and easy to attach to this commander. So you can just very reliably have a lot attached to it so that your army, if you have a go wide strategy, can be really, really pumped and hit really hard. And if you've got extra combat, if you've got double strike with your creatures as well, you can really take opponents out quite quickly. You could also go just a bit more specific, like, okay, like Cauldra. Like, I want to, complete Cauldra. Cool, let's do that. You can search for those. Or, yeah, you can just like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll go get Skull Clamp and, like, absurd equipment that you can just really take advantage of. I mean, these Sword Cycle as well. So, yeah, Kellen can be built in a couple different ways. Compared to some of the other commanders in this set, it's probably more middle of the road. I mean, it's pretty strong, but again, it's probably more middle of the road overall. So I think Kellen the Fey-Blooded, we're going to throw you in the B tier for now. Again, there's a lot of good and really powerful commanders in this set, so we're going to be adjusting as we go. Moving on, Lord Skitter Sewer King, a 3/3 rat. No, I don't know why I said sewer that way, but I did. 2 for 2 and a black. Whenever the rat enters the battlefield and control, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, you get a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can be blocked. So, I mean, yes, getting rid of your opponent's graveyards is nice. That can really just be a extra benefit, a way to really hamper opponents that might really count on their graveyard. I mean, if they have like flashback spells, jumpstart spells, if they have, reanimation strategy, they're not going to like it very much for your rats coming into play. That being said, obviously, this is more like a token generator. On combat, you get a 1/1 rat. Cool. You got other ways to take advantage of other rats. Overall, there's definitely more powerful commanders out there. Rat, Tribal, and Mono Black, you already have access to, other commanders that can do this more powerfully. I'd say Lord Skitter, Sewer King, you are probably... Again, this is the problem with all those uncommon commanders. They're just, most of them so bad that it's just tough to kind of have them take up 2 tiers, but I might have to move them all down to the D tier at some point. Lord Skitter, for now, you are a C tier commander. Moving on. Rowan, Scion of War. Okay, this is where things get really, really spicy. A 4/2 human wizard with menace for 1 black and a red. Tap spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast for X the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate as a sorcery. Very easily usable and abusable. Absurd. Essentially, any of those life setting cards like a Wall of Blood, essentially, right? Hey, pay 1 life, get +1/+1 until end of turn. It doesn't have to tap. There's no cost for that other than life, so you can just do it as many times as you want to. Mischievous Poltergeist, regeneration, those kind of things as well. Any kind of a card that's like, hey, yeah, just pay whatever life you want. Cool. Again and again and again. Set your life total to whatever you want it to be. And also be like, oh, yeah, how much do I want that X to be this turn? 20? Cool. All right. Tap for 20. Reduce the cost of all my cards by 20. Cast an Exsanguinate for X equals 20 very easily for just 2 mana. Train your opponents, get your life back, essentially, and then some. Untap this with a Threaten effect, which just costs a single mana to do. Do it again and again and again. All of a sudden, your spells cost nothing. Again, Giant Inferno to take your opponents out. And this is a very low to the ground commander, again, that you can untap quite easily in these colors, again, with threaten effects, and then also really take advantage of giant X spells, damage spells, life draining effects. Your opponents are going to have absolutely no chance once you get things going with this. So, yeah, Rowan, Scion of War, you are, in my opinion, the high mark of this set so far. You are the S tier commander, and it's going to be tough to actually see kind of, if anything else can kind of be even up at that level with you, and we'll see some other really powerful commanders, but still, I probably should have mentioned that these rankings are going to include all the commanders from the main set as well as the precons as well. So there you go. Anyways, moving on. We got Tegwill, Duke of Splendor. Speaking of one of the precons. A 2/3 Fairy Noble for 1 blue, black, flying death touch. Other fairies you control get ++1. Whenever another fairy you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So a very simple but very effective commander. Again, very tribal. Okay, cool. You get to pump your team. You get to also just, more importantly, gain an absurd amount of card advantage from this. And it does not specify, very importantly, non-token. So yeah, like a Bitter Blossom, incredible with this one. Now, Sure, you're going to be losing a life, but 1 life for 1 card is no big deal at all. You, of course, are in, blue and black, and especially with black, you've got those Feign Death type effects. You've got those reanimation type effects to get creatures back out of your graveyard, so you can really take advantage of your fairies dying and just, drawing a ton of cards. You got ways to take advantage of when you draw a card. Psychosis Crawler to drain your opponents and have them share in your misery, or like Fairies of Insight to draw even more cards. Yeah, like Fairy Tribal with, a nice little anthem there, but more so the card advantage being the big factor of this one. Definitely an interesting one. There's only so many fairies out there. I mean, we're getting more support from this set too. Of course, you can use changelings as well. I think overall, if this was a commander for a different kind of creature type that was a little more supported, it'd probably be up in a higher tier. But I think overall, Will, you're probably more of a middle-of-the-road commander just in comparison to some other ones from this set. Moving on. Totentans. There we go. Swarm Piper, whatever it is. 2/3 human warlock bard for 1 black and a red. Whenever it or another non-token creature controlled dies, create a 1/1 black red creature token with this creature can't block. By paying 1 and a black, target attacking rat you control gains death touch on turn. This one at least replaces your creatures when they die. Again, it does not have a restriction. With these uncommon ones, you might expect that to be like, only once each turn, or only on your turn, or whatnot. It does not do that. So this essentially is a way to get more and more creature tokens. If you're getting them out there, if you're getting creatures out there, you sacrifice to just replace them. A great kind of aristocrat style commander kind of effect. Also, sure, you can get your rats death touch. That's nice. That's being able to just essentially say, okay, yeah, be careful, when I attack with this rat at you, because I might just take out your creature if you block. So it can make it really difficult for your opponents to block any of your rats, essentially, if you've got mana up. Overall, less powerful than, some commanders out there already that we've talked about. Less powerful than almost all of them, essentially. But yeah, I'd say, again, when it comes to the uncommon commanders, most of them are probably going to be C or D. This is definitely not a D tier commander compared to some of them. It's definitely a C tier commander, in my opinion. Moving on. Let's go on to Troyan Gusty Explorer. A 1/3 Vulcan Scout for 1 green and a blue. Simic, most overpowered thing ever. Right, here we go. Tap, add green, blue. Okay. Spend this ability to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater, or spells with extra mana cost. Pay a blue, tap, draw a card, discard a card. There's mana dorks out there that are uncommon that are just better than this, that don't have that restriction, essentially. Sure, you've got that nice little looting that you can do with it as well, but still, yeah, this commander is quite garbage. So yeah, you're like, okay, big spell tribal, but also my commander really doesn't help out all that much with it except for just tapping for 2. And sure, I can loot. Why not? Yeah, not really a great commander overall. Troyan, you are, in my opinion, a D tier commander. All the other commanders I've talked about so far are definitely well above you. Moving on, Will Scion of Peace. Here we go. 2/4 human wizard with vigilance for 1 white and a blue. Tap spells you cast this turn that are white and or blue cost X less to cast for X is the amount of life you gain this turn activated on sorcery. So this is like Rowan flip side. This is, well, hey, okay, Rowan's like about life loss, it's about life gain. Now, life gain is incredibly easy to do. There's a lot of ways to gain life throughout the game, a lot of different kind of effects that have perpetual life gaining effects, or just one-off effects that are very cheap to cast and gain you a ton of life. And also with this, then you just tap this and then, cast even bigger effects like an X life gain spell. Cool. All right, all of a sudden, I double up the amount of life that I gain this turn, essentially. I've again got plenty of untap effects, whereas Rowan is limited to like just threaten effects. There's still plenty of those to do, and ones that just target a creature you control or can target a creature you control. Will has access to an absurd amount of untap effects in both blue and in white. So you can essentially untap not only Will, but like everything, like Dramatic Reversal, untap all your things. So cool, get even more mana back out of your mana rocks. Do it again and again and again. Do some crazy things with this. Yeah, once you're set up properly, again, like Rowan, it's going to be nearly impossible to stop you because your spells are going to cost like 80 less to cast. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, Blue Sun Zenith, draw my deck. Cool. Untap Will again and again and again. Blue Sun Zenith you, Blue Sun Zenith you, Blue Sun, like every one of your opponents are just going to be gone. So again, this is one. I really wish, again, I kind of had like a separate tier in here because like having both Will and Rowan kind of like would probably take up like 2 tiers, essentially like S and A. But like, I guess the way that I just want to put it is Will, yes, definitely can be as powerful as Rowan once built properly and built in an effective way. But like Rowan can just get there quicker again because it's easier to be like, oh yeah, I'll just pay 20 life because I can. With Will, there's no way to be like, yeah, I'll just gain 20 life for free. No, that's not how that works. So yeah, Will, Scion of Peace, I guess. This might be the first time I'm like doing this, but like, you're an S tier commander, but like if I had to, like S1 is Rowan, S2 is Will, okay? So Rowan is still above Will, but within that own tier, and I feel like it's probably the best way to do this. Yeah, they're kind of probably in a tier in their own right now, so there you go. Moving on. We got Alayla, Cunning Conqueror. Alayla is back. Lost a color, apparently. Now down to Dimir. Not Esper anymore, but a 2/4 Fairy Warlock with flying that costs 2 blue and black. So again, in Dimir. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature with flying. Whenever one or more fairies you control deal combination to a player, go target creature the player controls. So Again, this is a commander that Wizards limited quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, but in a way that it still works pretty well, pretty effectively. Again, being able to just cast spells on your opponent's turns. It could have been any turn, could have counted your turn as well, but it wants to encourage you to really cast instant speed spells on your opponent's turns, making up to like 3 fairies on each trip on the table, right, essentially. And then when your fairies deal combination to player, you get to goad a creature they control, but only 1 or more of your fairies again. So essentially 1 creature goaded per opponent. Pretty limiting. I mean, there is some potential there again, like a spell slinger kind of deck with fairy tribal built in there as well. Can be pretty effective. Again, a way to goad creatures, you know, keep them off of you essentially. Now, where does this fit? I mean, I'd say this one's probably more middle of the road compared to other ones. I'd say that Alayla, I mean, like, you're kind of like, again, like probably like a B minus, really, if I had to think about it. You're above other ones. You're definitely above like a Lord Skitter, in my opinion. But yeah, I'll throw you in the B tier. And you know what? I'm going to be moving this one right there. So there you go. We're gonna move things around just a little bit. Again, I think that will was the deciding factor that I was just worried about, essentially. Be like, okay, that might have to be an A, which would knock them all other down. We'll keep Will up there as in like an S2, essentially. So there you go. Moving on. Ash Party Crasher. Notice something uncommon. Let's see how it is. 2/2 hasty human peasant that costs red and a white. Whenever it attacks, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you get a counter on Ash. If I had a tier below D, it'd probably be in there. This is a garbage commander. That, again, yes, I understand that Wizards doesn't intend every single legendary creature to really be a commander, but sometimes it's just wasted design space, in my opinion, where they're like, yeah, let's do some story things with it, cool, all right, but also, like, no one's going to play with this. It's pretty pointless. Sure, it can be good and limited or whatnot, but, like, no one's going to build around a 2/2 that could potentially be a 3/3. Woo! And then maybe a 4/4 if it survives. Anyways, Ash, most definitely a D tier commander. Moving on. Bernard Ginger Sculptor. I love the design of this one. 3/3 Human Artificer for 1 green, white, blue, so in Bant. Each creature controlled, say food or golem, gets +2/+2 as trample. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Except say 1/1 food golem, artifact creature, which is other types, and it has pay 2 tap, sacrifice artifact, you gain 3 life. A commander that is like, hey, everything's a gingerbread cookie is hilarious and awesome and lovely. And yeah, they're just 1/1s, but they're technically 3/3s with trample as well. You can go changelings if you really want. You can go mess with Nexus, that kind of thing as well. More importantly, though, maybe really just taking advantage of creatures that have massive ETBs and saying like, oh, I've got some sacrifice effects out there like Greater Good in green, or there's something like Martyr's Bond in white as well, like free sacrifice outlets. They're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just get those creatures. I'll sacrifice them. I'll get token copies of them, get their ETBs again. Maybe I'll populate those. Maybe I'll use something like a second Sunrise to get those creatures back out of my graveyard, back into play again for even more value. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy potential for this commander. It's not quite up to, you know, that Will Rowan tier, but it is definitely, in my opinion, an A tier commander right below that with a lot of crazy potential. Moving on. Elevair of the Wild Court, a 4/4 human knight for 2 green and a white. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. Basically, again, with the rolls, you know, if you have another one that goes in the graveyard, enchant creatures +1 for each enchantment you control. So a way to pump creatures a ton. Whenever enchant creature you control deals counter to player, draw a card. So again, ways to gain a lot of card advantage. Unlike the fair commander that we talked about earlier, there's no like 1 or more. No. Every single enchant creature that you have that's dealing combat damage to an opponent, you get to draw a card for every single instance of damage. And so if you have like True Conviction, cool, double strike for your creatures, great. You get to draw twice as many, essentially. If you got ways to get those creatures through, you got plenty of ways to actually really take advantage of that. So a lot of card advantage can be had with something like this. And yeah, an ETB that you can use and abuse to get more virtuous rolls on creatures, being able to pump your creatures again a ton for every single of those enchantments you have in place, like an Enchantress commander. Really can take advantage of that. Take advantage of constellation effects as well. You know, again, Eidolon of Blossoms getting a lot of card advantage whenever you get this coming into play as well. So yeah, I think overall a very potent commander, one that can take your opponents out in quite a few ways. Probably like a B+, A-, but we're gonna go with an A tier commander for now. We got Hilda of the Icy Crown. Hilda of the Icy Crown, not Hildy. 3/4, I mean, I guess could be a nickname. 3/4 Human Warlock for 2 white, blue, so Azorius. Whenever you tap an untapped creature opponent controls, you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. Create a 4/4 white and blue elemental creature token. You get a counter each creature control, scry to draw a card. This has a lot of potential. I love the concept. Obviously, if it didn't have that restriction of having to pay 1, this could be broken and insane. Opposition is a crazy good card. It's basically like tap an untapped creature control, tap down a creature, artifact, or land. So this is basically like, hey, okay, use a creature to tap down one of your opponent's creatures. Pay 1, make a 4/4. Tap that 4/4 because it's with opposition essentially to tap down another creature, and so on and so forth. Just making essentially as many 4/4s as much mana as you have. Of course, you could also take advantage of getting counters on creatures. You can take advantage of scrying and drawing. a lot of potential to have there. Like you have ensnare type cards to tap down all creatures and just utilize that kind of a big effect to just make a lot of different, well, things happen with this one. It's a very cool commander. It's not the most powerful one out there, but definitely kind of like variety circle type effects can really help it out as well. Really cool deck can be built around it. I think overall it's probably a middle of the road commander, one that is pretty spicy though. Moving on. Eldraine, the Pyro Hammer. I love this design. 4/4 Human Knight for 2 red. Whenever an instant sorcery spell that targets only a single creature deals that much damage to that creature, Eldraine deals that much damage to each opponent. This commander is the burn commander that burn players have been waiting for such a long time for. Again, burn is, I'm not going to say terrible in commander, but it doesn't live up to its name that it has in other formats, because in other formats you can burn down players quite quickly because you have one opponent with 20 life. In Commander, it's 6 times the problem, essentially, right? Each opponent has 40 life, and you've got 3 opponents, so it's 120 life you need to burn down. This Commander says, let's just, make it more even, essentially. Hey, you got a lightning bolt? Cool. Normally in Commander, they'd be like, 3 damage to someone's face. Oh, no. This time, it's like, okay, 3 damage to a creature, which you can probably take out that medium-sized to small creature opponent controls, or you've got some creatures that you might actually want to target on your own that are yours, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, now that turns that into a 1-mana spell that deals 3 damage to a creature, takes a creature out, and also pings your opponents in the face for another 3 each. That's 12 damage in total for just a single mana. And again, that's with a single lightning bolt. And you can have even more potential. If you give this commander lifelink, all of a sudden now you're gaining life for that as well. For that 9 damage that this dished out, because again, this dishes out that damage, that's 9 life gained for 1 mana with 12 damage in total. Absolutely crazy. This commander has a lot of potential. There's some crazy things that you can do with it. Again, damage doublers, damage triplers can really help it out as well. Fireball type effects can really take your opponents out in absolutely no time. Brash Taunter, kind of creatures essentially that actually want to be targeted, want to be dealt damage that you control. Just do that. Deal damage, deal extra damage out, and have fun with that. So yeah, Eldraine, at the end of the day, yeah, you're probably up there in the A tier with just, again, how quickly you can burninate your opponents to the ground. Moving on. We've got yet another unfortunate uncommon commander, Johann, Apprentice Sorcerer, a 2/5 human wizard for 2 blue and a red. You look at the top card of your library at any time, once each turn. Why wizards? You may cast an sorcery spell from the top of your library. Yep, I mean, is it Melik, is it Paragon, which is just basically a much better version of this. We already have this commander, you just basically copy-pasted and made it worse. I mean, yeah, this is extra card advantage off the top, but only once each turn. So, being up to potentially 4 additional cards that you get advantage off of if they're like, instants on your opponent's turns. Yeah, you can utilize like Ghoul Caller's Bell type effects to mill yourself as well to make sure that you can actually hit cards that you want. That being said, it's pretty limiting. It's not the worst. It's definitely not, a 2/2 that just swings and might get bigger. This is a C tier commander, though, against those uncommon commanders, just really taking up those C and D tier spots. Moving on. Speaking of uncommon, Neva, Stalked by Nightmares, a 2/2. Human Noble with Menace for 2 white and a black. Enters the battlefield, turn target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, not battlefield. Whatever enchantment you control, put a graveyard from the battlefield, put a counter on Neva and scry 1. So this one can really take advantage of enchantments that you might want to sacrifice, essentially, and being able to just gain a lot of card selection, not card advantage off of this. Yeah, this commander can get quite beefy as well. Having Menace can get through potential on opponents as well, getting a little bit of value when, this ETBs. Although, again, if you're trying to take advantage of that ETB by, like, blinking it or feign deathing, you're not really able to really build up those counters a ton on this. So, yeah, some extra scrying, some extra card selection there. It's got the potential for some card advantage as well. But, yeah, overall, not the worst, definitely not the best, a C tier commander. Moving on. Charade of Numbing Depths. Another uncommon commander, 2/3 Merfolk Wizard for 2 white and a blue. Enters the battlefield, tap target creature opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Whenever you tap 1 or more untapped creature opponent control, draw a card. It still triggers only once each turn. And there's that limiting text on this that just turns this from a commander that could have had a lot of potential, like a Verity Circle commander, to 1 or more creatures, trigger only once each turn. Essentially, you're very limited to just 1 draw per turn if you've got ways to really take advantage of this. Yeah, it's a commander that is not the worst again. It has more potential than some of the other ones, but still, it is limited. It is limiting. It is a C tier commander. Moving on. Talion the Kindly Lord. Oh, I love the design of this one. A 3/4 Fairy Noble with flying for 2 blue, black. His enters battlefield is a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, player loses to life, you draw a card. It's a really cool design. This is like, hey, let's just hope that I hit the right number. Now, typically, if you're going to mathematically go about it, I believe from what I've heard, in Commander, either 2 or 3 is probably going to be your choice most of the time to hit a lot of players with mana value or with power or with toughness. That's going to hit it most of the time. But you also have ways to, know kind of what might be the right call. Again, telepathy, cards like that you can see your opponent's hands and perpetually, that can be huge. Not to just upset your opponents, but also to say, okay, cool. I can, okay, what's that? Okay, yeah, the best number right now is 3. Cool, pick that. You've got ways to change that number as well. You have a simple blink effect or a feign death type effect if this creature dies. Cool, get that back, get that ATB again, and all of a sudden you can choose a different number if you need to. You can also bounce things back to your opponent's hands, Aether Gale, those types of effects. Essentially bounce a lot of things back to their hands, and all of a sudden, if they've got more creatures that, have a mana value or power toughness equal to a certain number, cool, you get extra value out of that. You got ways to take advantage of draining your opponents, ways to take advantage of drawing cards, maybe double those up with like a Teferi's Ageless Insight. A lot of potential for this one. Not the most powerful effect, but a very fun commander, and one that I think is probably pretty middle of the road compared to a lot of the other commanders in this set. There's some very powerful ones out there. So, Talion the Kindly Lord, I kindly tell you that you are a B tier commander. Moving on, Yenna Red Tooth Regent, a 4/4 Elf Noble for 2 in Selesnya colors, green and white. Pay 2 tap, choose target enchantment you control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent you control. Create a token's copy of it, except it isn't legendary. If the token is an aura, untap Yenna, scry 2 active only sorcery. Only as a sorcery, yes, throws a little bit of a wrench into your plans, potentially not being able to just do this on your opponent's turns to do some crazy things. That being said, you still have a lot of potential with this one. Even just utilizing a bunch of those, overgrowth type effects, the wild growth type effects, those enchantment auras that make your lands tap for more mana, that can be huge. Being able to say, okay, yeah, I'll pay 2, make a token copy of it, enchant another one of my lands, make me ramp even faster, and all of a sudden, I'm untapping and doing it again. Because again, if you're utilizing auras, you get to really take advantage of this more and more and more. That being said, there's some crazy things you can do with it. You can copy essentially just massive enchantments that give you so much extra value. I mean, just picture this plus just a Smothering Tithe. Yeah, you can't make an extra copy of that on top of that, but still crazy. Or Song of the World, still populate, double essentially on casting spells. Some crazy things can be had, mana doublers, mana triplers, even, of course, doubling up on those can be crazy. Yeah, a commander that's got a lot of potential, one that can be a really heavy hitter with the right build. And yeah, overall, an A tier commander in my opinion. Next up, Old Flitterfang, a 3/4 rat fairy with flying that costs 4 and a black. Beginning of each end step, if a creature dies this turn, get a food token, pay 2 and a black, sacrifice a creature or artifact. Old Flitterfang gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Pretty garbage. Yeah, basically, sure, okay, this does count your opponent's creatures as well. It also counts non-token creatures, but you're just going to be making food tokens. Now, there are ways to take advantage of sacrificing just tokens in general. That being said, not as many ways as taking advantage of sacrificing creatures in general. If this is like, hey, yeah, you make creature token, this would be a bit better, but this is pretty terrible. Yeah, you can give it +2/+2 by paying. No, not really all that great. Old Flitterfang, at the end of the day, in my opinion, you are a D tier commander, joining some of your uncommon brethren. Next up, Obira Dreaming Duelist. A 2/2 fairy warrior flash and flying for blue black. So Dimir, when it enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Sorry, whenever their fairy enters the battlefield under control, it would be much worse if it's just this. Whenever their fairy enters the battlefield under control, each opponent loses 1 life. I mean, yeah, there are ways to make fairy tokens. You got Bitter Blossom, that kind of stuff as well. There's only so many ways to make a lot of fairies at once, though. And yeah, I mean, there's just only so many ways to really take advantage of this. Yeah, I guess you have some mass reanimation effects you can really take advantage of. That being said, fairies aren't the most supported tribe. You're getting more support with a set like this. Overall, a pretty weak effect. Again, not the weakest out of all the commanders, but definitely not the strongest. Obira Dreaming Duelist, you are a C tier commander. Next up, Sir Armont the Redeemer, a 4/4 Humanite for 3, green and a white, so in Selesnya, enters the battlefield, create a monster roll token attached to another creature control. Basically, enchanted creature gets +1 without trample, enchanted creature gets +1, so a pump effect for your enchanted team. Cool. Also, just, 1 enchantment when this comes into play. This one's pretty bad. I mean, the problem is that there's just such bad ones in the D tier. This is kind of above those, but like right with the C's, it's probably a C tier. It's like a C-, I think. But yeah, probably more of a C than is a D tier commander. So Sir Armont the Redeemer, I am not redeeming you, but you are a C tier commander. Moving on, here we go. Corvold Gleeful Glutton, a 4/4 Dragon Noble for 5 black, red, green, but you're probably never going to pay that. Spell cost 1 cast for each card type among permanents you sacrifice this turn. Flying Trample Haste. Deals combination to a player, you get X counters on it, and draw X cards or X the number of permanent types among cards in your graveyard. Basically, get things out that are different, like artifacts, enchantments, battles, whatever they are. Sacrifice them, cool. All right, and all of a sudden, you got a lot of things in your graveyard, and yeah, you draw a bunch of cards and get counters on this. So it's kind of like a weird reverse Corvold in a way, where the original Corvold was just overly powerful, but this one also kind of deals with sacrificing as well. Yeah, sacrifice things, potentially cast this for just 3 mana, which would be lovely. But at the very least, if you sacrifice a treasure, it's going to cost 2 less. I mean, 1 with the mana that you use, then 1 because you sacrifice an artifact. yeah, sacrifice things, make this cost less, get it into play, swing right away, hit for a lot of damage, and again, deals counters to a player. So if you give it double strike, cool, just double that up. Again, you've got access to red, you've got plenty of double strike type effects to really take advantage of. Double that up, draw a lot of cards. Again, based on what's in your graveyard, you can mill things in your graveyard to make that, even more. Overall, a pretty powerful commander, one that definitely has potential. Not nearly as powerful as Old Corvold, not as powerful as some other ones in this set as well. I'd say overall, an A tier commander. Moving on, Ruby Daring Tracker. You ready for another uncommon commander? 1/2 Hasty Human Scout for red and a green. Whenever it attacks, while you control a creature's power 4 or greater, plus +2 until end of turn. Tap for red or green. It's a mana dork that can sometimes be slightly bigger. I can be a 3/4. Rawr. Yeah, terrible. Garbage. Awful. Terrible. Awful. Garbage. D tier commander. Sorry, Ruby. Moving on, Sir Ginger the Meal Ender. Love this. Well, I love the concept of this card, I guess I should say. A 3/1 Food Knight for 2. Has Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as opponent controls a Planeswalker. That might be more typical in another format in Commander. Unless you're probably playing against a Super Friends build, you might not meet that requirement ever. Whenever another artifact you control is put in grave from the battlefield, you get a counter on Sir Ginger and scry 1. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice Sir Ginger, gain life with its power. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, the thing is, like, okay, if you just have basically artifact tribal sacrificing shenanigans to get artifacts in play, sacrificing, get them back, do it again, you can get a lot of counters on this. In Scry, it's card selection, not card advantage. Yeah, you are limited, of course, to just, I mean, I was going to say one color, but not even one color. It's a colorless deck as well. There are more powerful colorless commanders out there, of course. This has a little bit of potential once you get set up, but overall, I mean, again, if you could guarantee me that an opponent has a Planeswalker, great. Trample, Hexproof, Haste, yeah, lovely. Most of the time, that's not going to be the case, though. So, yeah, I guess it depends potentially on your playgroup. If your playgroup plays a lot of Planeswalkers, it's going to be better than what it just is on its face. Sir Ginger, I think you are, though, a C tier commander. My apologies. Here we go. Next up, we've got the Goose Mother, one of the strangest commander creatures of all time. A 2/2 Bird Hydra with flying that costs X green and a blue. Enters the battlefield with X counters on it. When it enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. Whenever the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food if you do draw a card. So it's a potential card advantage, but kind of limited, right? I mean, like, let's say you put 8 mana into that X, right? Cool. It's going to be an 8/8, I mean, or actually a 10/10, right? 10 counters on it with flying. That's going to be pretty big. But then you make 4 food, and then you can draw up to 4 food, essentially, if you're attacking and sacrificing. You got other ways to make food, too, potentially. But, yeah, this is more so just going to be probably a Voltron commander where you're just dumping a ton of mana into that X and be like, cool, it's a giant creature. Cool, swing out, take your opponents out. Yeah, I mean, overall, there's definitely more powerful commanders out there. It's not the weakest, but yeah, definitely not the strongest. You're in Simic, so you've got good colors. You can dump a ton of mana into that. Again, you can do this in a very easy 2-shot KO, maybe even a 1-shot KO with enough mana. So overall, you kind of get some value out of that food as well. I'm probably going to put you, I mean, doubling season type effects can help as well, doubling up tokens too. So, oh goodness, you're probably like a B- C+. We're going to throw you in the B tier. Moving on, Baluna Grand Squall, a 4/4 Giant Noble for 3 mana in Teamer. Trample, permanent spells you cast out of an adventure cost wants to cast. Seek Thrills, an adventure instant for 5 mana in total. Mill 7 cards and put all cards out of an adventure milled this way into your hand, essentially. Potential draw, potentially up to 7 cards, really. More likely, maybe 3 or 4 if you have enough adventures in the deck to really determine that again. You got a lot of new adventures in this set. We got a lot of adventures from previous sets. I mean, Eldraine, and then also, I believe, Baldur's Gate, right? But yeah, basically, the longer the time goes in Magic, the more adventures you're probably going to have, because it seems like a mechanic they like, so the more you have access to. Right now, it's not a limited list, I would say, but yeah, there's going to be some decisions where you're like, I'm going to put this in the deck. It wouldn't be in there unless it was an adventure, though, essentially. It might not be the best card, but it helps you with this commander get more value out of it when you're casting it. And of course, reducing the cost for your spells can be great as well. Overall, a good commander, one that can provide, well, card advantage potentially, and also mana reduction. Not the most powerful commander out there, again, because there's only so many adventures so far, but the more and more you get, I mean, those virtues are pretty crazy, the more powerful this will become. So right now, I would say, though, you are a B tier commander. Moving on, Ariite? I keep messing up this name. I'm not sure. Ariete of the Charmed Apple, whatever it is. 2/4 Human Warlock for 1 white and a black, so an Orzhov. Each creature that's enchanted by an or you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. So kind of like a pacifism-ish effect, like more like a goading-ish effect. Doesn't force an attack, but it says you can't come my way, go that way. Beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life for X the number of ors you control. So your opponent's gonna be like, attack that player, we can't, we need to take them out, we're draining. So yeah, you've got ways to take advantage of gaining life and draining life. Plenty of ways to take advantage of those in the colors. Essentially, any kind of enchantment will work. It can be a token enchantment, like those rolls. It can also just be like low to the ground enchantments that maybe you get an advantage from, maybe from casting it, maybe from entering the battlefield, maybe from sacrificing it. Other kind of enchantress effects can really help you out too. It's a commander that's got a lot of potential. It's very powerful. Again, one that can just direct kind of where things are going, essentially. Like, you're not going to be attacking me. You're going to attack over there. Or just, hey, yeah, I'm just going to drain you out if you can't deal with my commander. So, yeah, a very cool commander. One that can be quite powerful when set up properly. Probably an A-tier commander. Finally, though, Godric, Cloaked Reveler, a 3/3 human noble with haste for 1 red. Celebration, as long as 2 or more non-land permanent enters the battlefield under your control this turn. Godric is a dragon with base power and toughness 4/4, flying, and has pay red dragon control +1/+0 until end of turn. So this can pump all your dragons, which is nice. I mean, this just can be a 4/4 that you can dump a bunch of mana into to turn it into a probably like, 3-shot KO quite easily, maybe even a 2-shot KO. If you get double strike 2, you can maybe even do a 1-shot KO if you got enough mana. But yeah, just Dragon Tribal, go wide, and essentially say, hey, yeah, as long as you have 2 or more non-land permanents in the battlefield control, which is a decent requirement if you're going to try to cast like some big dragons, but there's some ways to do it, obviously. Then yeah, you can really take advantage of this commander as well, being a good pump effect for your dragons. Overall, definitely not the worst commander of this deck, or deck set, but definitely the best. Overall, I think Godric, you are a B tier commander, right? Nice in the middle of the road. But yeah, overall, a very interesting set, a lot of really cool commanders. I feel pretty good about these tier rankings. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are about them. What do you think I really messed up on? I mean, again, I think there's just some things that really threw a wrench into like the rankings here, right? The uncommon commanders, yeah, there's kind of like 2 levels of uncommon commanders, like completely worthless and like not as worthless, but they're kind of taking up like C and D for the most part. And then like an S, like, I mean, Rowan is more powerful than Will in my opinion. Will's still incredibly powerful, but it's kind of like an S1, S2. And then A, I mean, some very good commanders as well. B is just, middle of the road. So yeah, I'm trying my best right here, but I think this is it's a pretty good representation of the commanders in this set. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think, what I messed up on, what you would change, what you think is right. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.